And I'm not saying give us everything. That's what every time we say you could just do this little addition, people say you want to change the game, hold the hand storytelling. We're saying just give us enough. You can give us enough in this way specifically and keep everything else the same, and you will still have the Souls-like experience that you love. And look, there's actually merit to it because a lot of people love the mystery. It's shown by people defending it so much. And I'm not saying take that away. I'm saying this would engage more players to want to experience the same thing you love so much.
Shadowversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and it looks like a lot of people are not understanding what I was saying in my last video on a small criticism in Elden Ring, which is, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. People kind of have forewarned if you dare criticize even the smallest thing about Elden Ring, the community tends to react quite strongly to it, and that has been proven correct. As going back to my interesting point is that most of that video was showering the game with praise, and there was only that smallest bit of criticism which only came from the result of the story and things being so good. But even with that, that was enough to upset a lot of people to the point where so many, and I'm talking like a large amount, utterly missing the point, the argument I was making, and strawmanning it, taking it out of context, and the replies have been some of the worst ones I've seen. But having said that, this is something I am kind of used to. I've gone through this rodeo a lot, where I make an argument and people just don't like the fact I'm dare criticizing something that they love, and as a result they go into it looking, it must be wrong, and so they're looking for all the bad things instead of actually trying to steelman my position and actually see if there's some validity to it. And the reason why I know this is because so many of the comments, as I mentioned, are just utterly disregarding my argument. And as a result, I am going to respond, address the ones that they are taking out of context, because there's even been a reply video made already. And hey, I think getting quick on the mark is fine. I do that a lot, so well played for that. But it also goes to show you that it's a very passionate thing if I have a response video not even 24 hours after uploading the first one.
Yeah, or it was a really, really spicy video.
It wasn't that spicy.
Well,
that's the thing. People they think I'm criticizing the whole way Elden Ring tells its story, all right? And I can see why they took that, position, even though I was very clear multiple times. I said, you can keep all the things that you love in Elden Ring and add in something that will stop it from having such an issue with many players. And I'll go into that a bit further as I clarify, but there's a couple of other things that I want to address, make clear before we continue. And the first thing is, I have no issue with games that have barely any story and want to ride on just gameplay or anything like that. And this is addressing criticism where people say, we don't need story and other things like that. And what's interesting, this is why I find my annoyance different to how I can be annoyed by other things, is that it legitimately comes from the fact that there is something so good. And it's that the story is great. I would have no issue at all with the way Elden Ring hides its story if it was a crap story. It's like, sure, we don't care. We don't need it. And Elden Ring is a phenomenal game based on the gameplay, and also by the fact there are heaps of people playing it who are not invested in the story, don't care about it, and find it confusing, but still love the game because the gameplay is phenomenal. That's all well and good. As I've mentioned, the reason why I think it doesn't work with Elden Ring is because there is such a great story. It's the way that it presents the essential material, okay? And that's what I was meaning. I clarified in the original thing. I'm not talking about the whole story. I'm talking about the essentials. What were the essentials? Enough of the story to invest the player to want to see how it concludes. And to do that, you don't need to change much. In fact, you can have the way Fromsoft does their storytelling largely the same. All you need to do is provide that little bit extra so people are more invested and they're not so lost. And there are so many other disingenuous arguments about them saying the way Fromsoft does it perfectly fine is contradicted by the people making the arguments. I'm going to point it out specifically. Are you going to say something else?
Yeah, like I've just found a comment thread where basically this guy has said that all you've done is go around farming and stopped when you got some items. You haven't been doing that. But then there's someone like in the comments of that comment being like, okay, why is this, and this a thing? and the guy just replies, written like someone who ran through not talking to the NPCs and reading the description. Then that person goes on, well, the NPC in quest design is like basically abysmal in terms of where you're meant to go, who you're meant to talk to and stuff like
Exactly,
that.
who you're meant to talk to.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was playing. Sorry to go on a tangent, right? But I started a new playthrough just to go through the Patches quest line, and I read a note on the ground that said, find treasure, and I'm like, okay, I ignored it, and I went to Volcano Manor, and just because I opened the door to Volcano Manor, I now cannot speak to Patches for the rest of the playthrough.
Wonderful. Right? That works really well. That's just one example amongst many. And what would people say to you like that? It's like, one of the arguments, that would just encourage you to do another playthrough. See, that makes you want to play the game more.
Yeah, but I have to do another playthrough for a tedious reason.
Yes.
I literally just started, ran the circumference of the map to get to that one point, and now I've got to start again.
And you know what also happens? When you have like an enjoyable, enthralling quest line, you want to experience again with a new character and a new context, okay? So saying that doing it this way encourages more playthroughs where the other way wouldn't is utterly disingenuous and false. The thing is, though, and this is what's frustrating, is that the mere fact I'm willing to criticize something so beloved is enough to turn people off from even paying attention to the argument. That's what happened in the first video, and I'm expecting it'll happen in this video again, but I'm hoping just by the fact of I'm sticking to it, all right? I'm encouraging you to listen, hear me out, and I'm addressing the arguments many people, like most people, have been putting in the comments directly, that it means I am listening, I'm paying attention, because I've nothing wrong with being proven wrong. Just give me a good argument. That's all I need. None of this disingenuous bullcrap where you twist my words and address things that I'm literally not saying, right? So if you really want to defend the game, you need to defend it well, because otherwise you make yourselves look like big idiots. I'm just saying, like, if you can't even listen, pay attention, and then you go on these zealous kind of defensive rants, and there are a lot of comments that would just like, get good, and you suck, and all that stuff.
You say Dark Souls on the internet, you'll immediately get a comment saying,
yeah, I know. Those ones do make me laugh, though. So going back to how it's fine if a game doesn't have heaps of story to be invested in, the issue is with Elden Ring shoots itself in the foot because it takes the approach like the story doesn't matter in the gameplay, and as a result, there's a lot of people not getting invested in it, not caring or assuming that it isn't nearly as good as it is. They would win so many more players over to even the Fromsoft way of storytelling if they just didn't shoot themselves in the foot, and they don't need to change their whole model or way of approaching it to do that. All they need to do is provide a little bit more to invest the player more and not choose, and I'm going to give you specific examples of this, so before I get triggered, objectively lazy ways of presenting story to the character that makes it uninteresting and a much higher chance for the player to completely miss. That's a very counterproductive, and it's not about a secret mystery hiding gems or everything. It's as easy as just talking to an NPC and getting a boring dialogue where they just stand still and just, you get speech, that's it. There's nothing interesting else happening with it in terms of emotion and characterization and acting or anything like that. It's a very boring way to deliver exposition. That does not enhance the mystery or anything, okay? You could deliver that story in such a more compelling way than the way it is and engage people so much more and achieve all the things that they want to in the way Fromsoft usually delivers story, with the mystery, the searching, and the need, and everything like that. And the fact that you can miss essential story beats to miss context and sometimes screw over your entire gameplay is not a merit to the game. Do you reckon it increases the mystery that you can miss story beats?
It's balancing missing it with the potential to miss it shouldn't be like the easiest thing to happen, you know?
Well, this is the thing, actually. It's okay to miss certain story elements. I think it's actually that can work in its favour. I'm not saying that you have to be given all the story, and people saying that I'm saying you must, you're taking my point out of context. The mystery, the searching the right NPC, that can be fine. My issue is the essential, the bare basic elements in the story that you need to really be invested in to know what's going on. That's what shouldn't be hidden. Okay, that's what you shouldn't have a higher chance of missing and everything. If you want to expand on it further, find out what all the other tangents and plot points are, fine, that's great. Have the mystery, have the searching, everything. But you need the essentials, especially at the beginning, enough to invest the player to know or want to know how it's going to end. That's the key. That's the point right there. And that's what they don't give. And so they've done, it's funny how people are saying this is just Fromsoft's way of doing it. right? It's the way they've done it in every Souls game, Shad, and this must be your first Souls game. It's actually not my first Souls game. I played Demon Souls like right after it came out, and I played some of that Demon Souls 3. The thing is why I don't know about their stories is because barely any of it was presented in the games enough to make me even want to care.
Yeah.
So people have been saying Elden Ring does a better job than previous ones, and perhaps I agree because at least there was enough to make me bother to want to have curiosity to find out, but still not enough to have. If I couldn't have gotten like the story elements outside of the game, I would have cared. I would have given up.
Dark Souls does a much better job at portraying its.
You reckon?
Absolutely, especially the first one tells you there were dragons.
Well, I haven't played the first one, so there's an example.
Then
perhaps.
this guy came and he established an age of fire. Now the fire fades and you have to go and restart it.
But people are claiming that you get that same amount in the Elden Ring beginning cutscene, which you don't.
No, you don't know what the Elden Ring is. You don't know why it's important. You don't know who broke it. You know, it's all...
Or how it relates to you. There's no personal connection with the player. This is what I think Dragon's Dogma did really well in its beginning. It's you have to kill a big bad dragon. That's not too new. It's not revolutionary stuff. But what they did, the dragon attacks a village and steals your heart, the character's very own heart, from its chest at the beginning. Traumatic thing, and now the reason why you need to kill the dragon is because you've got to get your heart back. All right? There's instantly a connection to the character which makes you more invested in the overall plot and story. There's no connection. You're just an unknown tarnished.
I didn't even know what they meant by tarnished. I still kind of don't. You've fallen out of grace with the Elden Ring somehow?
The Eld Tree.
The Erd Trees. Okay, why does the tree hate us?
That'd be good. Wouldn't there be a good connection and like what's caused your tarnished character to want to be invested to find out what's going on?
Yeah.
And then maybe that would invest the player. And this small addition doesn't change nearly any of the other stuff in the Elden Ring style storytelling. You could keep that the same, but if you just give us enough, and the examples I gave, right, were just examples. And I'm happy to admit they might not be the best ones either. I was spitballing, but I think they would have worked. And there are other ways you could have made it work as well. Because that's what people are saying. Therefore, the examples I gave were the only examples that could invest the player more. And because the examples I shared, a lot of the information can be found if you search for them in the game. That means I'm utterly wrong contradicting when that's clearly and categorically ignoring the point I made that it needs to be presented to the audience earlier on to get the investment in the story, not hidden in things that you have to search for later on where it's too late to even be bothered to care about that stuff. That's the failing. It's not that it's already there, because people have been saying you just don't have the patience to search for it and everything like that, and the disingenuous kind of get good kind of things. It's like, no, it's not about get good. It's about not even caring anything in the story to make me want to search for it. If I cared about it, I would search, wouldn't I?
And without going to YouTube for spoilers and looking at other people's stuff, how would you know to search for it?
Yeah.
So
fundamental objective flaws already that people who argue against, how about you argue against what I'm saying? Not take out of context and just say, the stuff is already there, you just need to search for it. That's not what I'm saying, all right? I say the essential stuff, not everything. Like I said, have all the mystery and even potential plot points that you won't even find. Have the essential stuff. And what is the essential stuff? The stuff that makes you invested enough to know what happens in the story. That needs to be presented early on. Because otherwise, a lot of players won't care. And if you say, doesn't affect me, that's fine. But it proves my point that Fromsoft is shooting itself in the foot, that it's robbing it for so many other players that could love Fromsoft style storytelling if they were just given a reason to care about it. This goes into an analogy I have, right, where so many people, and I'm not kidding, right, they've taken this this criticism is a tiny part. I love Elden Ring. I think it's one of the best games I've ever played. And the story, and I have been showering praise on the story and world building phenomenally. But the fact that I'm criticizing how it's being presented, the essential stuff, that makes people think that I'm ragging out the game and that I'm an enemy and that I'm attacking it. Some person even said, there's a reply video, which I'm going to be addressing some of his points directly, was afraid that I was going to take away something he loved by pointing out this tiny little improvement that they could put into the game. But he took that to mean it's going to ruin everything. It's like, what, are you kidding me?
Elden Ring is not trying to be like other games where it spoon-feeds you the story, and so please do not get this taken away from us by trying to promote this as a problem of the game rather than a problem of the user.
How on earth? Where did you get that from? They're that sensitive and defensive that they won't listen to the specifics of what I'm saying and then take it as an attack on the whole. Grow up! My goodness, right? And so, this is the analogy. This is what I shared with Oz as well, is that pretend you have a window with a beautiful view of a forest, and it's a beautiful forest, except there's a tree that's a bit too close that is blocking half of the view. I am suggesting you could remove that tree and more people could appreciate the whole view of the forest without having to go to extra lengths, like hiking outside and moving around the tree, to appreciate the full forest view. But people have taken me saying that and then warped it out of proportion to mean I'm saying cut down the entire forest when it's the forest that I'm trying to say we should appreciate.
I agree, Shad. I often say you missed the forest for the tree.
It's like that. And I'm not saying, like, literally, people have been saying things like, you're saying, people accusing me that I'm saying that you need to check the game to hold your hand. Are you? No. Like they're saying, and then they take it, many people have been taking it, hold the hand through the entire game. Are you kidding? No, I'm not saying that. I was saying, give us some essential things, like, to be invested in the story. That's not holding your hand. That's just offering a little bit more so you can want to explore and enjoy the non-holding hand experience. I never said get rid of the non-holding hand experience. Are you friggin' kidding me? Listen to what I was saying. I clarified it really clearly in the first 5 minutes of the friggin' video. And the rest of the video is just me praising how great the storytelling is and the elements that I think that could have been shared a bit earlier on to help you invest it. That was it. It's amazing. What, you were going to say something?
I have been engaged in the forums, particular threads, watching videos on the story, and I still have barely any idea what's going on, despite the cursory stuff that we've already talked about. I don't know what the hell happened to Caelid and why it's like that. I don't know why certain...
Wouldn't that be interesting to know when you enter Caelid? Like, and people say, the response, oh, you just need to talk to this NPC and you're an idiot for not finding it. Yeah. It's like, no, that's a flaw in the game for hiding it so much that most people are just missing it. Because Oz has played this game in depth. Like,
I think I have 200 hours on it now. Yeah. I've got 3 different... I've played through it 3 times. I'm a new game plus 3.
And look, I will say that's if the stuff is essential. And maybe the stuff in Caelid isn't essential, but there are essential stuff to make you invested. Well, for once, okay, you can then segment it as well. Because there is essential stuff about Caelid you might want to know to be invested to explore all of Caelid. But they're not giving that. Okay? And so you can break it down to separate things as well as the overall story, which I've been referencing. And other people say, like someone literally said, that I'm asking for a concrete story-driven experience to guide you along the path of the game. When the hell did I say that? But the fact that someone can take that interpretation from what I was making very clearly the opposite, all right, that you only need the beginning amount to be shown, be invested, shows how utterly reactionary a lot of people are to any criticism of this. It becomes a tribal thing where they want to just basically delegitimize anyone who raises the slightest bit of criticism.
Yeah, and at the same time, there's a contradiction in the community where a bunch of people will say, this type of build is broken, this weapon's overpowered, this needs to be nerfed, this needs to be patched. But you say something about the story and it's like,
like changing the way a certain build works fundamentally changes how some of the game operates.
Yep, it's
They're perfectly fine for changes in those, if it suits their interests, I guess.
But that's the thing, you can say over and over again, this game is incredible, one of the best games I've played in years, right? There's one issue for me.
That's an objective fault.
Dare you?
Yeah, there can't be objective faults. And another disingenuous thing people have been saying is that this is just a different type of storytelling. I will get to that, because that's also false, okay? Because I never said change the way they do the story. You can have that. You just need a way to draw people in to want to interact with it more, which the game doesn't give.
I have a potential solution. Every time you pick up a new item, it gives you an option to listen to someone do like an audio thing of the item description, because they like to put lore in that.
Tomb Raider did that, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So the new Tomb Raider reboot, you find random items around the world, and you can click in it, and you get a dialogue from Lara Croft from her own kind of perspective and interest. And so it's not just a bland Wikipedia kind of reading article. She's actually sharing her thoughts and opinions on it, but also describing what the importance of that thing is. If they had that in Elden Ring, I'd listen to every single item.
Yeah, exactly. So I would as well. Yeah. It gives you something to do while going from area to area.
And why? It's more interactive, more immersive, okay? It's not like having to read a Wikipedia article to just learn basic things.
Yep.
And so here, this is a perfect example of, honestly, would enhance the experience and not take away anything from what people enjoy about the mystery, finding information, lore, stuff like that. That would be an objective improvement, okay? And if people say it would be more distracting because it's something that's in your face and it's spoken to you and everything, you could skip it and just read the dialogue instead. It would offer both.
And even from this most recent patch they did, Fromsoft has shown their humility in the fact that they're willing to make corrections to things they didn't put in the game. Like in the newest update, you know what they did? When you find a new location, it tells you what NPCs are there now.
Yeah.
So like,
and also, you know what I find hilarious is that people are saying that my suggestions are going to fundamentally change the game, which they won't, because I'm not saying fundamentally change the game. I'm saying just do something that's not going to restrict people in experiencing the same type of storytelling. And also little things that could actually enhance the type of storytelling they do, right? But also people have been saying that this is just the way they do it and they've been doing it forever, even though there are objective examples of them doing it a different way in like Sekiro, where the people have been listing examples doing things that I've been suggesting, okay? And there have been examples of other Souls games where they've done story a bit differently. Yep. It's not been universally exactly the same. They varied on it to try and see what can work best. And guess what? Here's me suggesting something from a point of view that, I don't know, it seems like people are so defensive about Dark Souls. It might be coming from the difficulty thing, that they are so reluctant to any possible point of criticism that could help improve it because they got their shekels up, the defenses are up or anything like that, because this is not equivalent to the make it easier thing. And I'll explain a bit later as well why those are objectively different in terms of gameplay and story. Those are separate things. It's not like this is just story on hard mode. No. This is story done in a way that objectively makes it worse.
Well, it's like the whole, it's similar to the whole, do you need an easy mode and a hard mode for either this game or Dark Souls? Well, there's been a joke, and it's kind of true in the community where, playing magic and sorcery, easy mode, right? But that's a choice the player gets to make. So you're not so much as making it easier or harder, you're giving options of engagement for the people playing. And it could be the same thing with the story. You don't need to make the story easier to find, just make it easier to engage with.
That's a good point. And that's not changing the difficulty at all. And so, because the story can be just as hard to find, as you mentioned, but also why because they're on the subtopic, we'll go right into it. It's not an equivalent argument, right? Even though Elden Ring has a hard gameplay, anyone can still experience the gameplay. There's nothing preventing them from experiencing the full, thing of how difficult Demon Souls or Elden Ring is. The story is completely different. There are legitimately things in the way that I'll just drop this phone, Doris, right? The way that presented the story that will prevent a lot of players from experiencing it at all. Really important things as well. Like, it ruins the gameplay experience. Like, comparing it, if we were to compare what they've done to the story to if they employed the same things they did the story into gameplay, it's like if they purposely left out the jump mechanic, like the ability to jump in certain areas of the game and not in other areas of the game. Like, a legitimately less ability to engage and do something that would enhance the experience if you had it there, but they've taken it away and prevented you from being able to employ it. And we're talking about essential stuff, not just additional stuff or side stuff, because there are essential elements of the plot you need to want to engage with it, and there are essential elements in the gameplay that enables you to engage properly with the gameplay, isn't there? And what they've done with the story is objectively different to what they do with gameplay. In actual fact, they encourage you to understand the gameplay by putting in a tutorial. There is still a tutorial in Demon Souls, because engaging with the gameplay is so important to appreciate and enjoy the game. Well, I'm saying you kind of need that as well for the story in Elden Ring. If you want people to engage and enjoy the story, you need enough to make them even want to bother looking. So another one that people said, literally, many people have been saying stuff like that. I'm trying to change the whole Souls-like experience. It's like, when people say that, I automatically know, wow, you either did not watch my video or paying basically no attention to it to get that interpretation from it. And the only way you can get that interpretation after watching it is if you're going in it with defense, you were defensive, and you were looking for, this must be wrong, the attitude. Common thing, I want the game to spell everything out. What? I literally said you can have the same mystery experience, all right? But you just need a way for the players to want to have engage with the mystery, which it's not giving. But then people say, it gave enough for me. And it's like, that's good for you. But that doesn't change the objective reality that there are heaps of players that it hasn't been enough. That cutscene at the beginning was actually, if you were to just gauge that, the beginning cutscene was actually quite generic. Bad thing happened, and therefore bad results happen in the world, and now you need to fix it. There was no connection to the tarnished or what draws you in. There's no explanation of why or who. or any number of things.
In fact, in the beginning of the game, when it gives you, you know how instead it gives you the 2D paintings, like, and it explains these characters are showing to you, like almost. I mean, sure, they're bosses you fight in the game, but they're not. It doesn't really explain much about the story. It says, oh, here's the Dung Eater. Oh, here's the All-Knowing.
Random names that I have no contextualization for at all. Don't care. Okay? But even that, you could still have such a generic cutscene. The reason why the cutscene is bad is because the story and world building is so good and they had so much to draw from to make the cutscene phenomenal, and they didn't. And they made it very generic, standard fantasy thing. But they still could have even done that and did other ways, because there are multiple ways that they could have employed to engage the player more in the story, to want to explore and enjoy the Dark Souls storytelling experience. All right, heaps of ways they could have done it. For instance, talking about the way the information that people are saying that's already there in the game. All right, that all you need to do is talk to NPCs, which is utterly flawed by the fact it's so easy to miss NPCs that would have given you essential information to help you contextualize boss battles and other things like that.
Yeah.
Like the example I gave with, what's the boss battle in the academy?
Renella.
Renella, right? People saying, Shade, you just need to talk to this NPC, which obviously I didn't find.
Yeah.
Okay? Because he was actually, like, he's off to the side. If you go on a direct line, you'll never run into this guy.
Yep.
At all.
It happened to me with Patches. I wanted to go through Patches' storyline, right? And so I went on the internet and said, how do I find Patches? And he says, after you speak to him here, you go and speak to him at Volcano Manor. And so I went to speak to him at Volcano Manor, but because I didn't investigate the little note properly and follow the directions, and we just went straight to Volcano Manor, like the internet said, I missed him completely. Got to start again.
Just get good, noob.
Yeah,
So they blame you for legitimate flaws in the game that causes a detrimental result in your gameplay experience.
Yep. And I went back and it's gone.
But they say, oh, Dark Souls is just hard. It's meant to do that to you. No. The story is not gameplay, okay? In gameplay, when you die, you just come back alive and try again.
Yep.
In the story, you miss something, it ruins your entire playthrough.
Yep.
I mean, those are not equivalent at all. But people are trying to say that it is. Very just disingenuous. And so in regards to, if there's an NPC that is going to give essential information to be able to enjoy part of the story, there needs to be a way to interact, find that NPC that you're not going to miss, basically, okay? And does that remove some of the mystery in finding things? Well, no, because you can still have the mystery finding all the other things. We're talking about something that's essential here, all right?
Something that doesn't cut you off when you've made an easy to make mistake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
the rest of the gameplay doesn't, but the story is this separate thing.
The story will do that to you, right? And then, okay, if it's essential, it needs to be presented to the player. And when I say presented, I'm not saying search for and hidden behind text or anything. No. Presented in such a way that the player's not going to miss. Was that going to ruin the Dark Souls experience? No, because if you're not into that, you can skip it, okay? But anyway, the way that it does present the information, once you find the NPCs, I already kind of mentioned this, the NPC, it's the laziest way you could give exposition from an NPC separate to just having text and no dialogue. At least they have dialogue, but it's an NPC that barely is not even expressing anything. They're not moving. They're not, and if they have the time, but they're basically doing nothing. Okay, and it's just exposition, the most lazy way that you could do it. And so people say, is that essential to the Dark Souls? No, it's not essential. And there are ways that you can give what players, if they happen to like such a lazy way of doing it, they could get that way if they wanted, as well as offering a better way for people who enjoy something much better. Because guess what? There's not one or the other. People are trying to think, well, things I'm proposing will take away. No. In this instance, you literally can have your cake and eat it too. You can have best of both worlds. And people say, no, Shad, that'll ruin my experience and you're attacking Dark Souls. So guess what? If you don't like the new edition, especially because what I'm saying, instead of bland exposition from a lifeless NPC, have a cutscene. And if you think that's going to distract it, skip it like most games offer in cutscenes. Yeah. And people say, there's games that don't let you skip. They're the exceptions. The games that don't let you skip cutscenes. Most of them, you can always skip it. And and would this ruin the Dark Souls experience? Having a journal that has the same dialogue that you talk to the NPC, so you can go back and listen to it again, audio, or read it again, so you don't miss stuff.
No, you've got to use the wiki.
Yeah. Are you seriously telling me it's it's less distracting to need to look things up in YouTube videos and a wiki, where you literally have to leave the game. That's not more distracting from the game experience than just having information in the game. Some of these arguments are nonsensical.
Yeah. And again, From Software, with their update and their humility, being Japanese, they added the feature that tells you where the characters are.
If I suggested that in my video, people would have been attacking me for it.
Yep.
Right? But then FromSoft does the change themselves.
And thank you, From Software. Appreciate it.
Because guess what? Things can be improved even in a game that's already phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And I hope people can understand that's why I'm even taking the time to talk about it, because I friggin' love this game so much. It would be a great insult if it was so just blare or mildly okay that I don't even look at it. All right?
Yep. What's the old saying? Indifference is the opposite of love.
All right? And so I'm criticizing it because I love it, because it's so great that I think it's a shame that there's a lot of people not enjoying how great a game it is, because I can see the legitimate objective faults that have prevented a lot of people from enjoying the whole thing. When this is one of the best video game stories and worlds, I compared it to friggin' Lord of the Rings. What greater compliment can you give to a story and world setting?
There's nothing.
But no, I'm attacking it. I'm an enemy. Oh my goodness.
People just hear what they want to hear, you know?
Well, that's what I mean. They saw this as an attack. It's honest clickbait, because I wasn't lying at all. It's like, yeah, this legitimately does piss me off about the game.
If you posted your criticism on Twitter, people would have been like, what, so you hate Japanese people now? They read more into your criticism than they do into the bloody wall.
But that point I was making about the NPCs, right? That is objectively a very lazy way of delivering exposition. It's just audio and text with nothing else. And you could have the player be engaged in so many more interesting ways. One person even said, when I suggested that the girl with the horse, you could have cutscenes when you enter into your area, they even said, Shad, there are cutscenes. You could just go talk to this person, do this type of searching. And it's like, that proves my point. Do you see? That something essential that would have enhanced the game experience. You're saying it enhanced, it gave you what I need, was hidden and prevented the player from finding it. And very few players are going to find the experience of finding essential information that oftentimes they'll miss because they didn't find it. That will be a more annoying experience than it being presented to them when they need it for the essential stuff, and still having searching, mystery, looking, the lore. Vadi Video can do all these videos and stuff, but the essential stuff is the important stuff. That's the bare minimum that needs to be presented to the audience to just get them invested to know what happens. And it doesn't need to be much. I'm not even saying give it as much exposition as a lot of these NPCs are able to give. You could still hide it with those NPCs you want. Just give it just a little bit of a nugget to make me go, ooh, that's interesting. And like I said, it could be done with a cutscene with what's her name?
Melina.
It could be done with a cutscene every time you enter an area with Melina. Or any number of ways. Like, when you talk to someone in the round table hold, just goes to a cutscene and it's delivered in a more engaging, immersive way. Because a lot of people are actually skipping some of this NPC dialogue because it's so boring. Yes, that's a real thing. And it's delivered in such a bland, lazy way that they're choosing to not engage with the story because it's not interesting. The way it's delivered is not interesting. But the actual things of what they're saying are great, but because it's delivered so poorly, people don't care. And so I'm not criticizing the story. I'm not even criticizing the way FromSoft does the story. I'm criticizing the delivery methods. And I'm not even changing the delivery methods away from NPCs or anything like that. It's like you could just do it in a more interesting way, or give us a little nugget at the beginning of these things to make us want to search out the NPCs, perhaps, to find it.
And what if, let's say you're traveling on horseback. What's his name again? Torrent. And you come into a new area, and then you hear Melina's voice, something to listen to while you're riding there.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
So Saints Row does that as well. When you're traveling from one area to another, they have NPC dialogue talking about the mission at hand or things at hand. Things as simple as that would enhance the experience vastly. And I'm not saying give us everything. That's what every time we say you could just do this little addition, people say you want to change the game, hold the hand storytelling. We're saying just give us enough. You can give us enough in this way specifically and keep everything else the same, and you will still have the Souls-like experience that you love. And look, there's actually merit to it because a lot of people love the mystery. It's shown by people defending it so much. And I'm not saying take that away. I'm saying this would engage more players to want to experience the same thing you love so much.
Yeah. And they also, they give parts of story away from boss encounters. Like when you go to fight a boss, you get a bit of story from them.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and it's usually very, very vague. And at the end, you get a little bit too. What if they added more like, other enemies, just regular enemies you encounter in the world, gave you dialogue while fighting them, or just anything?
Yes. So in Dragon's Dogma, when you fight Kagori, he is constantly speaking during the fight, and he drops some bangers, and it makes the fight so immersive, where it's like, we are the axis in which the world turns arisen. Our fight is something that has gone on for eons, and you're like, and this is like really significant dialogue that you're getting in the fight, which just makes it epic. It's awesome, but it helps frame the world. You're absolutely right. And also, like, what annoys me is a lot of the examples we give are already implemented in the game, but just not enough. Like, there are cutscenes. Isn't there? When you fight a big boss, is there a cutscene? When you beat a big boss, is there a cutscene?
But also,
people are saying, no, cutscenes will distract you from the experience when there's already freaking cutscenes in there.
And it's almost completely arbitrary where they choose to put them. But back to what you were saying, what we said about the smaller enemies giving away lore. In Halo 3, when the Flood show up, for the first time in all of Halo, they start talking to you. And it's all the same voice, all these different Flood soldiers. One of them's like, do not be afraid, I am peace, I am salvation. And it's like, that really pulls you into how terrifying this is, If you could have got that from any of the other enemies that weren't just bosses, that would have been incredible.
Yeah, and it's funny, I've repeated this point multiple times already, and I'm going to reiterate it with an explanation of why I'm repeating it once again, okay? Because in what we gave here, the examples we're giving, we are in no way saying replace the entire game with these things. We are saying these are just tools, options. They're not the only ones. You could pick between which one works well, everything, in which would engage the player just that little bit more to want to engage in the larger story, the searching, everything like that, the same Souls experience. And the fact that it hasn't done that, it has turned off a lot of people who would have loved this game and played so much more with it. And they're shooting themselves in the foot. Okay, the game is not as successful and beloved as it could be. This has such huge potential if they didn't do these things. And people say, you just don't get it. It's not the experience you want. What? Have we said change the experience? And this is why I'm repeating it. This is a comment to another reply video I had to do in another context. And this is what the commenter said. I got to tell you, Shad, in just about every video of the type of your original video, you clarify your point over and over again, so often such that I think, okay, Shad, we get the point. More on with the video. And then someone clearly misunderstands your point anyway. So keep beating a dead horse, I guess. That was and so from now, if people make these same arguments that people have put in that other video into this one, you're an idiot and you're not paying attention. And I'm just going to link this timestamp. Yeah, go listen again. Watch the video again and try and actually pay attention. Because either you're a brainlet or you are smart. And I believe most people can be just not be blinded by ideological tribalism.
It's just it's something they love, and they've got their own personal things they find fault in.
And I'm not saying agree with me. I'm just saying address my points honestly. Like actually address my argument instead of twisting it and attacking some bullcrap thing that I never said. All right, and then you might have a chance of changing my mind. If you think I'm stubborn and obstinate, all right. I can be changed. Give me an argument. Just give me a solid argument that addresses my points. My opinion can be changed. It happened many times in the past. But so far, I've not heard a single convincing argument in defense of Elden Ring for the criticisms I've put against it in the previous video, because so few has actually addressed my points that I've been saying. That whole reply video, and look, he was a really respectful guy, okay, and so I actually like him. It was by Ziostorm, or Ziostorm, or something like that. Most of his points, like his counterpoints, are completely irrelevant to my argument and misrepresents what I'm saying. All right, happens often. I'm used to it, and so that's why. All right, I'll just explain it again, and maybe this time, instead of aiming for a straw man, things I never said, you can aim at the real target, me, and then we might be able to get somewhere.
And most people don't do it on purpose,
I agree, because when they get upset, they go into it looking for anything that they can find fault with, and oftentimes misunderstanding and making it up without not realizing. So I think we've addressed a lot of I summarized a lot of the most common counterpoints people have raised. And I think we've addressed some of them, but we might have left out some of the nuance I'd like to address in them. So we'll go through them just quickly. And say the story is all there. You just have to be bothered to look for it. And if you don't, you're just lazy and don't get it. That's the type. It's not what the game is not meant to be that way. That's what they've been trying to say. And I never said you have to, like, again, so many people saying, why do you want the story held in your hand? I never said present the whole story in cutscenes or anything like that. Listen! Just enough to make the player invested, and then you can keep it all the same. That's all you need! It doesn't change anything. It just adds that little bit of a nugget that a lot of players need to be more invested. That's it.
Or just, add some simpler mechanics that allow you to engage with the story more accurately, you know?
And also, the fact that there are essential story elements that they are admitting by this comment you need to look for, and if you don't, you'll miss, is a direct confirmation of my criticism. Because those story elements were essential to appreciate certain plot points. I'm talking about not everything, like I said, the essential ones. And if they were hidden away to the point that so many people are missing them, that is a legitimate flaw in its way of storytelling. The essential parts I'm talking about, not everything, okay? And so these types of comments are like, well, thank you for confirming my criticism. You've done nothing to dissuade me. You've just helped confirm my belief in it. Good work. You know, like just convincing me more, you know. So another one is... Okay, so when these people are pushed and they're forced to concede the objective truth, that essential story isn't presented and can be missed, all right, to the player, they say what is given, the cutscene at the beginning, is enough.
No.
And we've already addressed this, like it might have been enough for you, for a lot of people, no, it's not. That beginning cutscene is vague, does not even tap the awesomeness that Elden Ring has to offer in its story and plot world building, okay? Not even close. And the fact that you're so easily pleased, because a lot of people already love Fromsoft, and so they don't need much to be ready to dive in, because they love it already.
I love Fromsoft, and I was, just from the gameplay alone, I was, happy to play through it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to engage, because I like story. I played Skyrim, I played Halo, I love story, but I couldn't figure out how to find the story without watching Vati Vidya. I was waiting for his videos.
Mm-hmm. That's a flaw. They say they love the way it's done. It's perfect as it is. It's just a different type of storytelling. Now, there is some validity to this, okay, because a lot of people love the way it's done, so therefore there is merit to it. But as we've already mentioned in this video, they are not giving a lot of people enough incentive to want to experience that. Because if it can be fun to experience, then why aren't people experiencing it? That's the question. Oh, it's just a different type of personal preference. No, a lot of it is that people just don't care enough about the story to bother to look. Like, I'm legitimate proof. Because once I actually found out how friggin' awesome the story was, I was annoyed that it hid it from me so much. Okay? And so I don't have too much of an issue having, like, the mystery or the soft kind of storytelling, because I've already given an example where I thought it really worked. Like, the story of Godrick. Okay? The little things you hear about him as you go and stuff. And it contextualizes when you got to him, and I compared that to how I didn't get that with the next boss. All right? And there was a difference in delivery. People say, you just didn't go to the right areas. No. It was also the fact that the game went out of its way to hide it from me. All right? And it wasn't presented. And so there's a good example of, yes, people like me can absolutely love the FromSoft way of storytelling if you give them incentive and reason to care. And there's not enough. The proof of that is because so many people don't even know it's any good. They're just like, you see criticisms of Elden Ring saying the story is crap. One, they could be criticizing the story delivery methods. There's more validity to that. But if they're actually saying the plot, the characters, what happened at point A and point B, and if they are actually saying that is bad, to me that shows they don't know enough about the story, or they just don't know what good storytelling is, because it's objectively brilliant.
Yeah, and it's not just, you don't just need to use From Software as an example. You can use other complicated and deep story and lore and mythology to prove it as well, because much more complicated and deeper stories have been done before, but they lead the audience through in a much more effective way.
Yeah, and it's not holding your hand the whole thing. Sometimes it's just pointing in the right direction. Do we get pointed in the right direction? FromSoft is now added where NPCs are in the map. As an objective admission that they weren't pointing the right way to know it to fight certain NPCs. Thank you for proving my point, FromSoft. Glad that you're trying to improve objective faults that did exist in such a brilliant game.
Yeah. And we stress again, we love this game.
We freaking love it!
Yeah.
I wouldn't care to rant about it if I didn't like it this much. Okay, so this was a common one, and this one I find particularly dumb, is they say, no, the reason why you know so little is because your character, the Tarnished, is supposed to know so little. And that it was all intentional. Okay.
Then why bother explaining any part of the story at all?
Yeah. And also, that's bull, because the Tarnished would actually know vast amounts of the world just by being present in the world. You think he doesn't know about the religion? Like the Golden Order at all?
How is he able to do magic?
And some of these Tarnished are... One of them's a mystic knight that is wearing the Lucarian thing. Is essentially a knight from the... which one? It's the kingdom, not the academy. What's the... Laria, Lucaria.
The words are complicated.
But this Tarnished is legitimately someone who would know vast amounts of how the magic operates, everything like that, because just by the items they start with.
That's another thing they could help with. Just having one character or certain characters saying how you pronounce the words.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit dyslexic, I've found out recently. And but also, do you know who the first Tarnished was? It was Godfrey.
The husband to the queen.
So there you go, you know.
And the other thing, which really annoys me, is like, you're supposed to interact with the game the way that the Tarnished would. People have legitimately said that. It's like, bullcrap, you're interacting with the world the way a Tarnished really would. You're saying the Tarnished would never just ask this, the girl who's following you questions about this new area you're going into. And you can sit down and maybe you get a dialogue option, but mostly it's not. But the first thing she says when she appears is like, what's a maidens? That'd be a bit little. I'd like to know that.
I'd ask her, "Are you like my girlfriend now?"
Yeah, with my waifu. Like, there's a lot that the Tarnished would logically want to know, and has the capacity to find out that the game doesn't let you do. It wants to keep you in the dark, not because the Tarnished is in the dark. No, that's not a valid reason.
Like, if I was a Tarnished in this game and I went into Caelid, I would ask Melina, "Hey, do I need a mask or a tetanus shot in here?"
Yeah, am I going to get AIDS when I touch a tree here or something? Like,
yes.
It's because, and I'm just saying, it looks like everything has AIDS.
Those dogs over there, are they friendly?
Yeah. So, and I know people have been saying that the creator, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Miazaki.
Miyazaki? It's not, because I thought that was...
Is it Hiyamoto or Miyamoto?
Yeah, because Miyazaki was someone else, I don't know.
No, Miyazaki, it is Miyazaki. Yeah, last name.
If we're wrong, it's Oz's fault.
Miyazaki-san.
Okay. That he wanted to replicate the experience of when he tried to read English novels, and they were like medieval fantasy, that's what they sounded like. And he only knew partial English, so he had to piece the story together himself. And it's like, I think he would be able to replicate that experience. Vastly better yet, he would be able to entice people to want to have that experience much better than what he has. Because at the moment, like I said, there's so little incentive for people to want to engage with this style of storytelling. Giving up. I would have given up. And I'm annoyed about that because I would have missed out on something awesome. And I'm annoyed that so many people are missing out because it's friggin' awesome. I find it... I'm a little surprised so many people are offended by this, because I'm coming from a place of love and appreciation and trying to get more people into the game as a result by addressing some important issues that have prevented a lot of people from engaging with it. And by saying, no, guess what? The story is great. Just the game might have hidden from you. It's not your fault for not finding it. And people are saying that you're just lazy for not finding it, being disingenuous people. Or I don't know. But there is actually a phenomenal story, and the game is great. And so keep going. But this is where people like Vardy Video do provide essential stuff that the game is missing.
Yeah.
Because if you do enjoy, you could go look at lore videos, and that got me interested in the story to want to play more. Pity the game didn't do that. And that the game didn't, and could have, because there was enough story there to do it, and they could have done it without changing the game, is an objective flaw. All right? Okay, so that one was a funny one about the Tarnished. You're supposed to know as little as everything else.
Yeah,
it's
silly.
like, and you can have the experience the creator wanted if you just encourage more people. Just need to give them a little bit, the essentials, even new areas, and also I'm reiterating because so many people don't get the point. Is that there are story delivery methods that could be improved that would not change the experience in terms of the mystery trying to find it, but make it far more absorbable. It would encourage people to, people aren't reading the descriptions because they're boring. Well, what if you did it in the way Tomb Raider did? I would listen to every single one.
If someone made a mod for that, I'd download it instantly.
Yeah. And that does not change the game, not change the mystery, but actively encourages people to interact with it more and experience more of it. Yeah. That would be awesome.
And gives you a reason to not fast travel everywhere.
And look, yes, the game could do it so you can't miss it. Whenever they pick up a fancy item, does not go to their inventory and just see what it looks like. It's a new weapon. You just want to check its stats. And as soon as you click over it, an automatic dialogue starts playing. And if you don't like it, you could turn it off in the settings or just skip it.
Yep.
But that would legitimately enhance it, especially with how insightful and deep some of these things are and the nuggets of lore that they share that people just miss because it's like a Wikipedia article. But then if it just plays automatically, because guess what? This is like the game saying, this is something important, and I think you'd probably get a better gameplay experience if you knew this fact, and we don't want you to miss it. So here, I'll play it for you, you know? But it is an issue because the NPC, the main character doesn't have a voice. But I guess, because Lara Croft can do it because she has a voice, but it could be a voice of an NPC. Melina could, perfect. Melina could read it for you.
Or, so you know the lady who sells you boss items at Round Table Hold? Mm-hmm. She does the first cinematic voiceover. Could be her. Mm-hmm. And also, and that will tie into what you were saying before, what they said about, you're meant to experience the game the way the Tarnished did. The Tarnished saw both cutscenes at the beginning as well.
And so there are heaps of things that Tarnished would know that the player doesn't know. And so it's an irrelevant point because guess what? The player can, and sometimes is supposed to have information that the main player character, the Tarnished, isn't supposed to have, as proven by the fact that already exists in the game. Doesn't it? Another thing, this is a disappointing son. They were saying I gave up too soon because I said I got past Godrick and everything, and then nothing was really holding me in the game. That's where the criticism begins. That's my criticism. And then when I played a new character, I was looking for something to hold me in the game, and I was finding nothing in the story to do that. And so I thought playing a different build would hold me in and do it for me, which it only lasted for a couple of things. That's how important story can be to really hold people through. Yeah, because they were criticizing me that I didn't go far enough in the story to find out some of these story plot points that I enjoyed so much, right? So there's criticizing me for not finding the stuff around and continuing playing when that doesn't address my criticism at all. My criticism is that those important story things weren't presented early enough to get me engaged enough to bother to care to find out more.
But that's the thing. They didn't have anything that directed you to those things.
That's another problem.
It just cuts off okay, get into the castle, fine. Now what?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to direct us to everything. We're talking about just enough to get us invested. That's all we need. Direct us that far, at least.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Because based off everything in that first area, if all of these not complaints, but criticisms you have for the way the story's said, what reason is there for the story of the game to not end as soon as you've killed Godrick?
Yeah.
You don't know why.
And also, points, right? The NPC you find that tells you about the Grafted, okay? Where is she positioned?
I have no idea.
Well, she's in a shack that's directly in front of the castle on the same road you take to the castle. Almost like it's impossible to miss her, and therefore impossible to miss the essential dialogue and contextualization she gives about the Grafted. That made me really want to find Godrick and see what the hell's going on with the Grafted. It's going to be this weird Cthulhu kind of thing. It's freaking awesome. It was essential stuff to engage me into the story to find it, and they put it in a way that is almost impossible to miss. But they don't do it for heaps of other stuff that you do miss, and you don't get the contextualization. Because people saying I need to talk to this big tortoise thing, which, like I said, is off to the side, past the thing that if you go to Direct Line, you'd never find it.
I never found the tortoise.
You see? So it's no mystery why I was engaged with the Godrick story and not the next one. All right? And so then people saying I just didn't play far enough to find it. Trust me, if I found the tortoise just naturally after I fought her, that would have just pissed me off even more. It's like you're saying, just keep playing and you'll find the information. No, that would also be counterproductive because I'd be annoyed at how poorly it was implemented that I didn't find it. Okay? And it just, when they say you need a search, you should have played more to search more, just confirms the fact that some essential story elements were not placed early enough to get me invested to actually find it in the first place. So again, your counter-argument just confirms my criticism. So if you're really trying to change my opinion, these aren't the arguments you should be making because you're just confirming stuff. We come to the video by, I think it was Ziostorm, and he was very respectful. But you can watch the whole video. I'm reading basically the comment that I left under there, and I leave such lengthy comments out of respect for the time people do and take to respond to me, and I don't have time to do all this for everyone. And so the fact that I can, take time out sometimes to respond like this is a measure because I do respect people engaging and responding, okay? And, and it's funny, like people say, there was one disingenuous one attacking me for leaving such a long comment. It's like, this long comment is indicative of the fact that I listened to his whole video. When someone replies to me, I listen to it. I slow down. I will pause and go back and replay things. So I understand the argument, right? And then, because I want to understand what they're saying. And unfortunately, this can, often reveal that people were misunderstanding what I was saying. And this is a very big one. Like, for instance, he begins by saying he doesn't want to misrepresent my point. So his intent was really good. I appreciate that he was saying, I don't want to misrepresent his point. But the very next thing he brings up is misrepresenting one of my points. And he says that, he says that you're not supposed to know everything in the game in responding to the way I opened my video. But I never said, you should understand everything in the game. That's a complete misrepresentation of my point. I said you need to understand some essential things to help you engage in the story. But he literally says, in response to me, you're not supposed to understand everything. When did I say that?
The game begins with an expositional cutscene that is very little information. But here's the catch. That is also all the information that the character in the game, the Tarnished that we play as, knows.
And the next major point, there are fundamental things relating to the lore that the Tarnished should know. He's in their world. He knows of the religion. You think he's never heard of the Elden Ring before? He probably wouldn't know why it was shattered and stuff like that. But perhaps I think he would have some insight as to why it screwed up the world so much that would affect him. And it'd be great if, depending on the type of beginning player you pick of the Tarnished, you get a little bit of information, some cutscenes. Like I'm playing the hero, which is a barbarian looking character, right? Just give us a little bit of information as to why this Tarnished feels obligated to come from the land they are in, and it'll be different for each beginning thing, to invest the player a little bit more into what they're doing. And so it'll be a little bit of a story. It can be delivered in multiple different ways to explain why this particular Tarnished is going on this quest to either repair the world, become an Elden Lord, find the Elden Runes, all those things, okay? None of that. I have no idea at all what this hero culture is that are barbarian like. No information in the slightest of that culture. And so I'm not invested into the background or anything. It would have been good to know. Some of the Tarnished, like build classes, do have backgrounds. Like the magic. I forget the exact one. It's like a Mystic Knight. Carrion Knight, is that the one? Yeah, because you find out about the Carrion Royal House and things and stuff, but there's nothing in the beginning. You don't know spit about the Carrion Royal House to begin with, or the Carrion Knights.
Yeah.
Would have been good to know because there's a lot of lore that they could have drawn from.
And they're an awesome build. They were my first build in the game. I love doing Spell Sword, man. It was so good.
It took me ages to find that shield. I wanted to find that shield. And guess what? The search was fun.
Yeah.
Finding where you get cool items for your build is fun. And I agree. Searching the mystery is fun. I've never said take that away.
He's right outside the Renala fight, isn't he? The one with the shield.
Well, I remember where I got the armor. And the shield, it might be the Renala fight. I think. But I know it's in the academy at least.
All of the things he goes on to complain about not knowing. It's obscure by design.
And because what he says here, that it's intentional and obscure by design, he's sidestepping my criticism completely. Yeah, so he dismisses that criticism without addressing it by saying you can find this information later, which only confirms my criticism, is that you could have missed that information completely, all right? And that it wasn't presented when it was needed to engage the player. Because that's the other disingenuous thing when people say it's by design. The fact that it's intentional doesn't mean that it's not an objective flaw. Okay, people can still intentionally do things where they think it's the right way to do it and do something objectively incorrect as a result.
It's not a bug, it's a feature. Yeah. Just look at Lord of the Rings TV show.
Yeah, so many in so many other instances, no one would ever let anyone get away with a criticism like that. It's like, I intentionally made this car without brakes that's meant to be driven on the road safely. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Like, no, that's an objective flaw for the purpose of what you want to achieve. What's the purpose of this game? You'd hope, for people to be able to enjoy the story, the style, not change the style, but engage with the style and things like that. And they've shot themselves in the foot by locking the door from some people being able to get in the car. Okay? So the fact that it's intentional, one, I'm not sure it's as intentional as people think. Because we've already pointed out objective examples of Fromsoft fixing things and making it more engageable with the audience. Like finding NPCs. That's a huge thing, okay?
Yep.
That contradicts so many criticisms of people against me saying it's about the mystery. You're meant to look for it. If you're meant to look for it, why is FromSoft actually realizing, we should probably let the player find NPCs a bit easier? Maybe because they're missing essential story elements.
Yep.
So it almost seems like FromSoft kind of agrees with the points they're making.
They've given us waypoints. They've given us markers, like 2 different types of marker. It's they've added in options and engagement and reminders and all these different things to help you for the gameplay. And now they're starting to do it for the story with the NPCs. Just follow that along and keep doing it.
But it's by design, Oz. Because if it was by design, they wouldn't be making these changes, would they? Clearly, they want to improve the experience, make it better for people so they can enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right? And we're just showing some other examples which could enhance it. These are all things that would enhance the game, not change it. Absolutely. We're not trying to add an easy mode to the game. Not at all. I've already explained why this is not a direct comparison between story and gameplay. There are essential things you need for a story to even have the player engage with it and want to learn more. And Elden Ring is failing at that. So the next part, and I called him out on this in the comments, was a massive misrepresentation and a flat-out lie of what I said. He claimed that I felt I had experienced the game in full. That I literally claimed in my video, I've experienced everything in Elden Ring had to offer, and that's why I was ready to give up after my first 2 playthroughs, right?
He explains that he played up to Godrick, the first demigod, and then restarted the game, played through it again, only up to the first main boss, and then quit because he felt like he had experienced the game in full.
Utter bullcrap.
You're taking your time so much with this game that it's literally frustrating me.
Yes. And the other thing, the whole context of my criticism was that the game did not engage me enough to be able to experience in full, and I was annoyed that I would have missed out on something brilliantly. The very context of my argument was that I had not experienced it in full. And yet he goes to say that I was explaining the exact opposite. That's astounding. And so how can someone misinterpret what I was saying to such an extreme degree that it's the exact opposite of what I was expressing? And he was pretty quick off the gun, so I think this is more knee-jerk without thinking things through.
Yeah.
Okay? He seems like a decent guy. Friendly guy as well. But man, flat out lying on what I said. Okay?
Well, he didn't mean to lie. He missed the mark completely.
Mm-hmm. So I said I played to the point where nothing was encouraging me to keep on playing. That's the meaning of what I was saying, right? And that was happening in my first playthrough, and that was a problem in the game. That's where the flaw was. And then I tried my second game through, didn't work, okay? And not enough of the story was presented to me early on to interest me to want to know more. And they could have, because when I went to learn about the story, holy crap, it was awesome. And he even goes as far to say that I was saying we needed the core main elements of the story in the tutorial area, which is like the beginning area.
Limgrave and Stormvale Castle is less than 5% of the map, so it reasons that you're not going to get the core main elements of the story and the huge climaxes of world building that you're looking for in basically the tutorial area.
Again, I can understand where this is coming from, because we're giving examples of certain story elements that could have drawn the player in. To me, those weren't core main story elements. They might be foundational, essential elements that contextualize the beginning, but to me, like the core primary story elements, a lot of them you can still have as a mystery, and you can find out as you go. You just need enough to that. And remember, I clarified this in the first video, and I said, what is the essential story? It's enough of the story to make you want to know what happens in the end. Okay? Is that me saying you need to know all the core essential parts of the story? No, it's not, okay? And if you think the examples I gave were that, I'm happy to admit, okay, I could have missed the mark with some of the stories I was picking because there are a lot of different things that you could pick from to help. We've given even more examples in this video of things that would not create such a barrier to helping players engage with the story and want to find out more, that wouldn't subvert or change the core experience of Elden Ring. They would enhance it, improve it, all right? And so that's the point I was making, all right? If we can understand that, remember? But he goes on to say, because he's saying again that I was trying to say we need all the core story elements. No, that's not what I was saying. Understand what it is. Yeah, and he says that you can find these core story elements later on, which only goes to confirm my criticisms that they weren't given soon enough to where they were needed to invest me. And you don't need the whole core story. Just a nugget of that core story element is like, oh, tell me more. He says that essential story elements are hidden in item descriptions that most players were... So yeah, essential story items are... He concedes that. Essential story items are hidden in item descriptions.
If he had taken the time to read the lore of the items he found along his way, and keep a keen eye out for the environmental storytelling, he would have found the traces of everything he was looking for.
And that means a lot of players won't bother to care to read them or find out, and they'll miss them.
Yeah.
And we've already explained ways in which those descriptions could be presented to the player in such a way they wouldn't be able to miss it.
Yeah.
There's a such better way to do it, but what they picked was a really lazy way in which they're shooting themselves in the foot. You're thinking that if it's intentional, yeah, they can intentionally shoot themselves in the foot and actively hinder the game from, when I say reaching a larger audience, because some people are so elitist that they were saying, I don't want the game to be appreciated by normies. It's like, I think the developers would love more people getting into their game, their style.
And they've admitted through the changes they've made, and thank goodness they did, that they want people to be more engaged.
I think they're a bit happier with Elden Ring sales versus Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Perhaps by a smidge.
Absolutely.
You think they're like, all these normies playing our game, we don't want that, let's go back to our Dark Souls 1 numbers.
Ironically, I don't think the developers of Dark Souls are thinking, get good, normie.
Yeah, exactly. There is so much awesome stuff in Elden Ring that it can absolutely appeal to mainstream audiences and convert them to this style, but they could do it in an even better way by just not shooting themselves in the foot by these little errors that are creating barriers that making people check out from such an awesome game. And then he actually goes on to criticize me for not taking the time to do the detective work to understand the story. That is my fault.
The game tells you the story. Just because you didn't take the time to explore and didn't find it, that isn't a fault of the game.
It's like, really? That's interesting. One, criticizing me for not finding stuff that I didn't even know I needed to look for.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. Story at the fundamental level, the micro and the micro of an individual piece of dialogue, a single line from a character, and to the macro of the entirety of the story is about asking a question and then answering it, and over again. That's what the story is. Now, what Elden Ring does is it might give you a question that you don't even know is a question. It might give you an answer and you don't know where that answer fits.
Yeah, and it has answers that you didn't even got given the question to.
Yeah.
And so, legitimately, criticizing me for not finding stuff that I didn't even know I needed to find. The game didn't tell me. That's poor game design, not my fault.
Vati Vidge is meant to tell you.
I mean, oh my goodness, that's an astounding disingenuous thing to say. Oh, you just didn't look hard enough. If I was told that there was some information that I could find, just with a hint, I would have looked for it, obviously. I spent hours searching for this cool little, weapons there and things. I like the searching. I like all that stuff.
And you're not YouTubing it. You're going just looking.
I'm just doing myself.
See, I'm YouTubing it and I still get frustrated.
Sometimes I YouTube it, especially for key items and things. Sometimes builds and stuff. But that's separate to essential story that you should be in the game. And it's just a fact that if any game is relying on external media for core elements of a story to be understood, for people to even engage with it properly, it's a flawed game. That's when I said it was incomplete. Okay? People misunderstand the incomplete point as well a bit. Where what people are saying is not incomplete. Everything you need in the story is there. When other people are saying it's incomplete by design and saying that they're going to complete these incomplete storylines in DLCs and stuff. And so there's some people who don't really understand the incomplete nature of Elden Ring's story. And when it comes to some essential elements, I admit they're in the game. My criticism was they weren't presented, early enough to engage the player. they're missing there. They're missing in the key locations where they need to be. Directly admitting that there are essential story elements hidden in item descriptions, and then blaming players for not finding them when they didn't even know that they had to look for them.
Yeah.
And when they say, "Oh, this is just the Fromsoft way. You should have been aware of that going in." Okay, really?
Not only that, but you're lazy.
So I should have looked up before I played Elden Ring the right way to play Elden Ring. You just can't experience that when you play Elden Ring, like any game is supposed to give you. Again, that shows a massive flaw in the game if you have to prep yourself to know how to play a game properly, and it doesn't let you do that from the game itself. And so, if the game doesn't want me to know essential story elements by hiding it, well then well done, they achieved that. Exactly shooting itself in the foot and having the criticisms I have for it. He goes on to say that just because it's not shown in a cutscene doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Just because it's not shown through a cutscene doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Where did I say that? Like, he's trying to, contradict my original video, and then he says, just because it's, meaning a story element, is not shown in a cutscene doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I was saying they could use cutscenes, but that was not me saying that information that's not in cutscenes don't exist in the game.
Yeah, okay. But if it isn't... Wait, so he said, can you read that to me
Just because it's not shown in a cutscene doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but, okay, if you're not giving the player a chance to see this information in some way, whether it's cutscene or whatever, then it doesn't matter if it exists. The player doesn't get to see it.
Exactly!
It might as well not exist.
Exactly! So, look, what he said is a blatant contradiction, and the opposite of what I'm actually saying. I know a lot of information exists. I'm complaining that it isn't given to the player when they need to, even this tiny essential amount, to make them even want to find out or go searching for it. So, at the 9-minute mark, he completely, again, misses my point, and just confirms everything I was saying, but then blames me for, and he literally says that, for not taking the time to explore and not finding it.
Oh, you're taking your time.
I'm taking my time.
He hasn't even fought Radahn yet.
I searching heaps of things, and I still miss stuff because they actually have hidden stuff remarkably well.
Yep.
It's like they almost don't want players to find certain things.
If I see hidden item ahead or liar ahead one more time, I'm going to lose it.
Some of it is fun. I get it. I'm talking about, again, the important stuff. They can't do this with the things that, especially things that's going to help you engage with the story and want to do searching. Do you know people have discovered that there are hidden walls that you have to hit 30-something times to unlock?
30 times?
Yeah, like there's this, I saw this little clip of someone smacking a wall heaps and heaps. It was in fast mode, so I didn't, but it was a lot. It was like 20 to 30 times, and it took that much for the wall to open up.
Wow.
And I reckon for like Easter eggs, that's great. That's fun. These really big hidden gems. But if they hid an essential story point behind something like that, that's friggin' annoying.
And they they haven't hidden it behind a wall that takes 30 hits to reveal, but they have hidden it in a pathway. You've got to go speak to this person, then you've got to go back the way you came, and then you've got to speak to a different person.
What annoys me is when it's the tortoise thing, and it was out of the way from the direct way you would usually travel to get to that area. Okay, get to that boss. And it was they did it so perfectly fine with Roderick or Godrick or whatever guy with the NPC with the red hood.
Oh yeah.
You can't miss her, and she gives you really important contextualization about the grafted. But with the next one, not at all. So he says here, the story of the game exists, but I not give it enough respect to seek it out.
Simply put, the story of the game does exist, but he did not give it the respect it deserves to seek it out.
This is like, wow.
You don't respect the game enough, Shad.
Oh, wow. First of all, at what point did I say the story of the game does exist? The whole point of that original video was saying the story is phenomenal, but they don't give the player enough, and I'm trying to phrase my words very carefully because, yes, when I was saying they hide it from the player, the way I was saying what that means, so you can hopefully understand, is that I'm not saying they need to hide everything, okay? they're hiding the things that make you want to engage with the story, which means you don't find it anyway, which means the whole story ends up being hidden from you from the first place. Okay? And so to unhide the story in this sense is not the fact that the whole story is hidden, it's the fact that some essential parts to make you want to find and engage with it are not presented to the player at all. That you need to stumble upon it by accident and things. And so the fact that he can say that in a context that, guess what, Chad, the story does exist. It's like, oh, yeah, you think I don't know that? But I did not have enough respect to seek it out. Holy crap. See, no, the truth is, the story of the game exists, and it's phenomenal, but the creators, and I'll say the guys making this video, don't respect the story enough to present it, even the essentials, to the player in such a way to make them want to know what happens. Like that, I actually think that's a legitimate disrespect thing for how awesome this story is. And that's what pisses me off. The whole point of it was that the story is so great that they've seemed to have gone out of their way to not let people enjoy it.
You might want to reframe that one, because from what I just heard, it sounded like you said that Fromsoft didn't respect their own story enough. What if you said maybe like...
yeah, I am saying that.
Oh, really? I would say they had blind spots in terms of how to engage people. With such a vast world, it's difficult.
Oh, I know, but I'm using the same disingenuous perspective he's using to try and let him see that as a disingenuous perspective.
Okay, well, don't be surprised when people are like, how dare you say From Software didn't respect their own story.
Well,
I think they just went, such a vast open world, some things fell by the wayside, and now with what we've seen in the news update, they're correcting it.
Obviously, they, on another point of view, they have tremendous amount of respect for the story for the amount of time and attention they put into it to make such an incredible world and story. Okay? Then why are they not letting people experience, or they're actually doing things that are preventing people from experiencing, engaging it even in the way that they like with the mystery and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It's it's a bit of a blind spot. It seems like they're trying to make active steps towards correcting those errors. Especially with the most recent update, that's a big thing to do.
Yeah,
what they did.
And so accusing me of not having enough respect to seek the story out. So accusing me of not having enough respect for the story to seek it out when the story wasn't even presented in such a way to let me know that there was a really awesome story to seek out. So how can I give respect to something when I don't even know it's there? It's like, he's trying to say the story is there. Well, I should just know this by, I don't know, what's the mind powers, brain powers?
Omnipotence.
Yeah.
Omniscience, sorry.
Telepathy. So you should have just had telepathy to read the minds of people to know, oh, there's a great story here. I find it. And by the way, I actually do the exact thing that he's accusing me I didn't do. Showing enough respect to seek out the story, because guess what I did? I did seek out the story.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in the game in which I could find it, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, but I could have taken my time and do it. No, because I would have missed so much. It's an objective fact that so many people are missing so much story in the game and going into external media to find it because it's so easy to miss. Hundreds, thousands of players are doing this. And that's why they appreciate the Vardy video and lore videos and everything, so they can actually find out what they're missing. But that's disrespectful. Anyone who has missed anything story in the game, you were disrespectful for not seeking out those things, even though you didn't know where to find them and didn't even know that they're there to be found in the first place. What a bullcrap thing to say, man. You seem like a nice guy, but this was just, oh, come off it. See, I actually love the story so much, I want more people to learn about it.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So this is not just like, get good and seek out the story, brah. Like, we've already addressed that. In actual fact, there is so much flexibility in the way that you can play Elden Ring. It is the most, in terms of gameplay, the easiest From Souls games anyone's made.
Absolutely.
It's far more approachable.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that with the story at all, are they? They're not making the story more approachable in any way. In one area, FromSoft is specifically going out of their way to not change the formula, but make it more approachable, which is that's what you want. That's exactly what you want. But they're not doing that for the story, which is an objective fault in it.
Yep. And in doing the things like seeking it out on YouTube, like let's say you're playing Elden Ring, and like you want to engage in the story, but okay, what is the Elden Ring? I don't know what that is. You Google, what is the Elden Ring? And then it spoils the entire story.
And it ends up spoiling some really important, that ending boss battle, and some really important things. So they've also constructed in a way in which they subvert some of the great payoffs in the friggin' story by making you go out of the way and end up finding spoiling crap.
Yep.
Oh, but it's perfect. This was intentional. Because they're not changing anything to improve anything, which they are, but they're not doing it. It's perfect as is. And how dare you claim to change it? You're taking away the thing we love. You're an enemy, an outsider.
Corrections being made. It's not
Yeah.
nothing that we make is perfect. But this thing is great.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
One of the best games ever made.
Hands down.
It's up there with the top.
Needs some fixes to the story. That's
Yes.
it. In terms of how we get it.
Yes. Or that, but even if you can even take it less, just how we giving us enough to make us want to engage with it.
Yeah.
Period.
We want to know where to order the food from.
Yes.
That's it. We want the menu. Give us the menu.
Exactly. He says, I don't understand the appeal of the story.
And ultimately, he doesn't understand the appeal of the story.
And it's like, no. Now you're talking about two different things. I understand the appeal of the story. That's why I friggin' love it so much. No. It's the story delivery method. The way Elden Ring delivers the story. And if you think it's perfect, sorry, mate, you're like, you do not understand something vastly there, because even the game developers disagree with you. Okay, they're trying to improve their game. It's not perfect, all right? And
good on them.
Yeah, good on them for doing it. But it's literally like saying, you just don't understand this. Like, it's a dismissive thing. So you just don't understand the appeal of the story. No, I'll call you that's utter dismissive bullcrap. I understand the story very well, the appeal of it, because I'm trying to promote how awesome it is. It appeals to me, so therefore I must be understanding some type of appeal.
To go back to the food analogy, it's like someone's come to me and be like, hey dude, I had this awesome Japanese food last night, got it delivered, it was great. And like, okay, can you give me the number? Like, you just don't understand. Like, come on, man. Like, you're meant to find it yourself. Like, you're meant to go to this secluded part. Like, come on, dude.
And then if you try and criticize the method in which you want to get the food, you just hate the food. You don't understand the appeal.
No, it's delicious. I had it once. I just want to know where to get it again. They keep changing the number.
So it's funny. He says about the cutscenes that the game quite literally does what I say it does. And this, that's his wording. He says the cutscenes quite literally do what I say I was saying that the cutscene needed to do. And I don't think he understands what literally means. Because guess what? He can easily miss the information that is saying. He can find where I was proposing a cutscenes you can't miss.
You can miss cutscenes though.
Yeah, I know, but I was proposing cutscenes that you wouldn't miss.
Oh,
like when you enter a new area, automatic cutscene that you can't miss. You could skip it if you want, but perhaps what would be great, a journal entry that gives you the dialogue to you don't miss essential information. This is important stuff.
Or voiceover to do while you're writing.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's the type of cutscenes. But you're saying you can all the types of cutscenes that I was describing. You get that already in the game. It's like, no, you don't, because you can miss those things.
And that's what has me a little bit worried about the future of From Software games. Elden Ring is not trying to be like other games where it spoon feeds you the story, no matter how good it is. And so please do not get this taken away from us by trying to promote this as a problem of the game rather than a problem of the user.
And so in the conclusion of his video, he describes a worry that the game he loves will change if people take on things that I'm saying, and that just shows a fundamental misunderstanding of my video. Absolutely.
Not only that, it's a kind of really spiteful thing to say. Like these small improvements in how, making it more clear where you're meant to go, what you're meant to do, and what the stakes are, that's going to ruin it. And you're going to ruin it. You murderer of good content, you. How dare you?
Like someone eating, ice cream with little flakes of poo in it, and I'm just saying, hey, you could get rid of that bit of poo. And it's like, you're trying to ruin my experience! Like, no, I'm just saying, if you remove this tree, you can appreciate the forest more. You're trying to just wipe out the whole forest! I love the forest too! I just want everyone to appreciate more!
Well, it's like someone is eating ice cream with chopsticks, and you're like, hey, a spoon would work better. You bigot! How dare you try to ruin my experience?
And I said in my original video, multiple times the things I'm just repeating ad nauseum here. It's like, you can have the original Souls experience. That's what I was meaning. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have the experience, the mystery, the need to find out, and not screw over so many other players to have the same enjoyment experience in it. And why this isn't the same as the gameplay thing, I'm not saying you need to make an easy mode so other people can enjoy the game experience. No, because there's nothing preventing them from engaging with the game in hard mode and getting good. But is there stuff literally preventing players from engaging with the story? Absolutely there is. One, you can always try it in hard mode. The other, there's literally stuff you will never find because it's not made, it's literally made in a way that you can easily miss. All right? That is an active way of making a game that prevents people from engaging with it properly. One, you have no choice but to engage with it, and it's not free to everyone. Where the other one, like, it's not free to everyone to think, like, especially those who don't even know that you could miss stuff. That was his video, and most of the responses I wanted to respond to. So, if anyone still disagrees with me, which you know, of course, go ahead. I don't need to tell you you're entitled to do that. But if you want to convince me otherwise, you're going to need to address my arguments specifically. All right? Don't say I'm like changing the experience one hand, holding it, or any other bullcrap that I didn't say. Address the exact things. But it's going to be a hard thing to convince me otherwise, because so many of the replies has just confirmed my criticisms, where they're coming from, and the game developers are even actively implementing things that address my criticisms already.
And hey, guys, a good rule of thumb for if you want to refute something Shad says, you think something he said is wrong, leave a timestamp to when he said it, because that way it can't be misinterpreted.
Well, hopefully it would mean that they're referring to something specifically I said and they understood it in context.
Well, then that's my point, is that they can't misinterpret you that way.
Oh, people still will.
Yes.
It's happened before.
Well, then there'll be receipts of it and people can actually see it when
but
they
then I'll just, call it out.
Yeah.
Because some people are saying, don't do it, Shad. This is a really community that there's like...
It is.
Maybe people they don't know who I am. One thing that would be very unfortunate for any major Souls fan to take away from this is to think that I am an enemy to the community. That they think I'm new to this genre and the gameplay and stuff, and that I'm trying to change it and attack it. And if you honestly think that, you did not pay attention to a friggin' thing I said in this video.
Yeah.
My goodness. Because no, I love the game. I want more people to enjoy it. I don't want them to change. I get difficulty. I love many aspects of the storytelling. As I mentioned, you can engage with it. But it's shooting itself in the foot.
Gotta admit, though, you gotta appreciate the gatekeeping on the Souls community's behalf. You're not coming in saying this character needs to be gay.
I know, right? I'm like, I do appreciate that, because sometimes, yes, I agree. You
just
do
need to. False positive.
Yeah, this is just a false positive, right? I'm not one of these subversive, I'm going to get in there and just ruin everything. I'm doing it because I love it, and the game is already brilliant, and I wish more people could engage with it. And one of the ways they could do it is just by these objective little errors that wouldn't take too much to fix, honestly. So... there we go. I guess we'll end it there. Thank you much for watching. I usually say I hope you have enjoyed, but actually, the last video, the comments reflect everything you'll be talking about. The comments are wild around there, but the likes are as much as my regular videos. There's more dislikes, and I have lost a chunk of, well, when I say a chunk, a couple hundred subscribers. I find that interesting. You would think people who are used to watching me by now would be mature enough to realize that if someone says something you disagree with, shouldn't ruin your world or undermine your confidence in them. Sometimes people disagree, but it was enough to make people rage like, I'll never watch a thing he says now.
Could have also been, another bloody Elden Ring video, Shad? Come off it.
I was naive enough to think the last one would be my previous Elden Ring video would be the last one I made. Because I was like, that was all I wanted to say. It's like, that's it. I guess people pull me back in. And I, of course, always will be regular Shadowversity content, but I have this Elden Ring kind of arc. And there will be more medieval combat reference videos I hope to make. That'd be fun. And I use Elden Ring as a base point in those videos, but it's not really about Elden Ring. It's about game combat animation in general.
But Elden Ring just has so much variety.
It does. Well, it's a great point of reference because it's in them, common mindset. We'll end it off there. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you'll stick around, and I'll catch you on the next video. If I don't know, you're not going to let yourselves be too butthurt by my heresy.
Just again, we love the game.
And if you are there, until then, farewell.